Now, towards the end of last year, coal miners in the Hunter Valley were at the forefront of some heated discussions in Senate estimates, with One Nation Senator Malcolm Roberts asking, for instance, why workers were employed as casual rather than full-time, and why workers were missing out on things like long service leave, for instance. And Malcolm Roberts, he joins me on the line this morning. Senator, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, Jess. And even though I'm from Queensland, I grew up in the Hunter and love the Hunter Valley. I actually live not far from Muswellbrook in Singleton and managed a mine near Singleton and worked underground as a miner for years at the Lower Hunter and the Mid Hunter.
Oh, there you go. It is a beautiful part of the world. We'll have to get you back here one of these days now.
It is very beautiful, and I've got to congratulate the mining companies and the people who work on the reclamation down there. They are doing a great job. The old parts of the mining industry, you know, let it down, but the modern mining is just fantastic. It's just amazing what those people are doing.
And we are talking all things mining this morning, and particularly focusing on the workers. Now, as I mentioned, in some Senate estimates hearings before Christmas last year, they were the focus, talking with yourself, talking about the fact that a lot of employees have been missing out on things like long service leave. That's one of the issues. Casual workers being underpaid, also the mistreatment of workers who've been injured. Can you take us through some of these problems that our workers are apparently facing?
Yes, sadly, it's something that has to be done. But BHP has made an announcement that is really a non-announcement, as you pointed out, a couple of days ago at their Mount Arthur mine. But what we've seen and what we've heard is that miners are alleging, and that seems to be very true, that BHP is acting unlawfully, immorally, and unethically. And let me take you through each of those. Unlawfully, I say that because BHP, as the mine owner, operator, and the employer for the permanents, and the contractor for the supervisor and the company responsible for the contractors they use, or the labour hire firms, BHP has not been reporting injuries and incidents, and that is a strict requirement under the laws in New South Wales and in Queensland and in Australia. They have not been reporting injuries. That's unlawful and it's reprehensible. The second thing is that they have been treating workers who've been injured, severely injured. Some of these are crippled, and they just toss them on the scrap heap. What they've done is brought some of them back. One in particular has told me that he was treated at a hospital and brought back, and just told to sit on a workbench, and he's crippled, and on a cold steel workbench. You don't treat people like that. The second thing I mentioned was immoral. We understand there are people still working at Mount Arthur without correct workers' compensation and without correct accident pay. That is immoral. These people are working in a potentially hazardous environment, and from what we've heard from some of the miners, a toxic environment, an unsafe environment, and the mine has not got a good safety record. It's had many breaches from what we've been told, and these people are working in that environment without the correct workers' compensation and accident pay. This is not a third world country. This is Australia. And I mentioned unethical, and I said that because we know that these miners who are working in a casual position, they're on the same roster as the full-timers. They've got their roster out at 12 months in advance. They've been working there for a long, long time. They are 40% underpaid by 40%, doing the same job, same responsibilities, same hazards as the person working on the same truck next to them. And that is reprehensible. We've also got people not getting their leave entitlements and other entitlements. We've also found that the long service leave provisions have been dudded with some of these casuals. We've seen some casuals actually been there so damn long that they've got long service leave. This is not correct in this country. We also know that the Fair Work, so most of these are state responsibilities, but we also know the Fair Work Commission in the federal government is responsible for signing off on enterprise agreements on the basis that the enterprise agreement must meet at least what the award does, the Black Coal Mining Award, and yet it doesn't. And so the federal government is at fault here. Now, some of these miners have approached the Labor local MPs. They're both federal and state. They've approached the Liberal Party ministers in state government, and they've just run away from them. They've approached their union, the CFMMU, who used to be a proud union as the Miners' Federation. I've worked in the union when I've worked at the Coalface Underground and in the surface mines that I worked in Queensland, but mostly underground. It has signed off on these enterprise agreements that are 40% under the pay rate of the Black Coal Mining Award. They know that you can't employ people on a casual basis on black coal production. It's not consistent with the award. Yet the CFMMEU in the Hunter Valley has let these people down. They've done deals with the labour hire firm Chandler McLeod, which is part of a major international Japanese-owned labour hire company that is basically contracted to BHP. BHP as the mine operator, Chandler McLeod as the employer, and the CFMMEU as the recipient of these miners' dues, subscriptions, have let them down. And we need to get to the bottom of this. That's the real issue that's going on here.
And with a lot of this, let's go through some of them. So, for instance, the underreporting of incidents that you mentioned right at the beginning there, is that what you're hearing from workers on the ground?
Yes, we've heard miners being told not to report injuries. We've heard one miner being told that by a boss at the Mount Arthur mine that he was under pressure because of the frequent number of injuries and incidents, and don't report the injury. Now, as I understand it, it's the responsibility of the employer, that's Chandler McLeod in this case, and also the mine operator, the mine owner, BHP in this case, to report these injuries. And they have not been reported. Worse, the miners have then contacted, as I understand it, the state government department responsible for oversight of injuries and investigations, and they have made it clear that these injuries have occurred, and they've not had anything done about it. I mean, this is not just BHP, Chandler McLeod, and the CFMMEU undermining and exploiting these workers. This is also the state government not fulfilling its responsibilities. And
something I'm keen to get your thoughts on this morning. You mentioned the kind of non-announcement from BHP earlier this week. Last week we were hearing there were going to be a lot of permanent jobs put on at the Mount Arthur mine. This week turns out it's only about 30 that are going to be filled internally. Which, do you see that as a good thing and hopefully the start of more to come?
Well, what I saw in an announcement in the media, I think it was actually the BHP announcement itself at Mount Arthur, was that they need to engage people more, and that they felt that under casual work conditions and work contracts, there's not the engagement. Engagement affects safety as well as productivity. So it looks like BHP is recognising it made a mistake. This seems to be the start of an admission. But there are still, as we understand it, hundreds of coal miners working in coal production. They should be on the full-time permanent rate of pay and conditions. They're still employed on casuals. They're still not actually properly covered under workers' compensation and accident pay. They're not legally covered, and that is inexcusable. As we understand it, there are hundreds of workers currently exposed to these conditions without adequate workers' compensation and accident pay. BHP needs to come clean and tell the truth about what is going on. They're exploiting workers, and then when workers have injuries, they're just tossing them on the scrap heap. These people, I've just come through Christmas. I've heard of really sad, horrific stories from people. A miner who has been tossed on the scrap heap 4 years ago, his dog has carried him through it with as a good friend, and kept him from suicide, quite frankly, Jess.
Yeah.
And now the dog is injured, and the man doesn't have the money to pay for that dog's recovery. Mm. So here he is, and we've got women we've got a woman I know of, newborn baby, cannot pick up the baby and nurse her child due to workplace injuries for which she was never properly compensated. This is heinous stuff. This is not what you'd expect in Australia. This is what you'd expect in a third world country. But these are honest Australians, everyday Australians like you and me and a lot of people in the Hunter Valley, and it's being done to them by one of the world's largest companies, in fact the largest mining company, and also by a large recruitment company, an internationally overseas owned company, and one of Australia's largest unions. This could happen to a lot of people out there, Jess, and it's just not right.
So with everything that we've spoken about this morning, everything that you've been told from mine workers on the ground, where to from here? Is there any sign that you've heard that anything is going to change, that the government is going to step in, or nothing?
We've gone to the Attorney General in the Federal Parliament, and his department has been quite helpful in confirming some of the things that the miners have put to us. In fact, they've said that one of the miners who's put it, and I've got to say, the miners involved have done a phenomenal job. Their research abilities, the way they've connected everything up, connected all the dots, exposed various things, documented things, is just outstanding. We've got a couple of things we've got to take care of in the short term, then we'll be getting right into it. But the Fair Work, the Attorney General's Department has confirmed that the data is substantially correct.
Yeah.
So what we'll do now is if we don't get any more action from the local MPs, which we don't think we will, then we will take it up directly with the state government, and Mark Latham will be getting involved in February. He's got responsibility down there, and we'll also be taking it up directly with BHP and possibly with Chandler McLeod. But we've got a couple of things we've just got to oversight on first, and then we'll get into it. But, I must call out Joel Fitzgibbon, because he has been distracting people from the real issue. He has been saying that this is just about casualisation and that it needs to end. Nonsense. One of the miners I know has written to Joel 6 times and cannot get an appointment with him. And Joel Fitzgibbon has said this, quote, "The primary issue is casualisation. The primary issue is not casualisation. Casualisation is a problem. It's being abused. But he's hiding the real issue. The real issue is miners being underpaid 40%, miners not getting their full entitlements, miners being tossed on the scrap heap and discarded without accident pay and workers' compensation. Workers currently working on a full-time roster, the same roster as the full-timers, with no adequate workers' compensation or accident pay. Injuries not being reported. And Joel Fitzgibbon needs to stop distracting from the real issues and meet with these miners and address their issues, and then put the pressure on the state Labor MPs to meet with the state government and address these issues. These people will not be able to hide. We're coming after them. This is something, I was a miner myself. I've worked in the mining industry for a long time. I will fix this. We are sick and tired, Pauline and I are sick and tired of people exploiting miners and everyday Australians in this country. I also want to send out a really strong thank you and appreciation to Stuart Bonds. He developed so much trust so quickly during the election campaign last May that he had miners coming to him. They were sick and tired of the Labor Party, the Liberal Party, the state government departments, and they came to Stuart, even though he was a new chum. And then Stuart mentioned it with me and also with one of the staff in Pauline Hanson's department, and we just said, okay, we can't do anything at the moment because of the election campaign. The moment that's finished, we will get into this and start doing our research. I met with one of the miners. We then met with 8 miners in the Hunter Valley. I went to the Hunter Valley. It's not my state. I'm from Queensland, but we went to the Hunter Valley because these people are desperate. We met with Stuart and the miners. We saw their documentation. These guys just done a phenomenal job. And so we're investigating this, and we are going to take it forward because we also recognise not only do these people deserve it, but our state MP in Queensland, Steve Andrew from the electorate of Mirani in central Queensland, has heard similar stories in the workers in Queensland, in the central Queensland coal mine, where BHP also operates. So we understand it's not just restricted to BHP, but BHP at Mount Arthur is really abusing this from what we can see. So we will tear into this much more once we've completed our research, Jess. These people will get protection, and we thank Stuart Bonds in particular for the trust that he has developed in the Hunter and with these people.
Oh, we'll be very keen to see what happens with all of this in 2020. Malcolm, we really appreciate your time with us on the show this morning. Thank you.
You're welcome, Jess, anytime.